Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So today I am going to talk about one of the biggest problems which currently faces the Ummah of Muslimin, and that is how should we educate our children. So this is a central problem because the Western education that we are all receiving is not compatible with Islam in many ways. There are many things that are taught in a Western education which are simply contrary to what Islam teaches us. So now, on the one hand, so we can say, okay, we can drop Western knowledge and teach Islamic, but then we will not be prepared for all of the modern problems that we face. So we want to look at what is happening today. Then an Islamic education is not adequate for that. At the same time, the Western education that we need for the needs of modern society is anti-Islamic. So then this leads to the problem that we need to do something which is called the Islamization of knowledge. We have to take the Western knowledge and Islamize it. This problem has been raised and discussed and studied and attempted by many people, but there has not been much success in this project. So for example, the International Islamic University, this was launched by the OIC, the Organization of Islamic Conference countries, and they decided that we need desperately to create a model in which we have Islamic education combined with Western education. And so there were two international Islamic universities, one in Malaysia and one in Islamabad, and they have the same goal that we should teach Western education and Islamic education at the same time. But it has not worked very well. So in this lecture we are going to discuss why there has been this problem and how this might be solved. Alright, so to begin with, the problem is really about social science, not so much about physical science. So the social science is actually study of human beings and societies. And in this, the Islamic view is very clear. The human beings are the best of the creations. People are infinitely valuable. The Quran says that whoever saves a life, it is as though he has saved the lives of all men. And so, and human beings are the purpose of the creation. All of the universe was created for us, so we are at the center. And contrary to this, modern Western education teaches that man is insignificant. All animals are the same, they were all created by man is just another animal. So the laws which apply to the jungle are the laws which also men should follow, which means let everyone kill everyone else, and whoever is stronger, let them survive. So that's very opposite. So according to the Islamic teachings, every human being has infinite potential. There is a hadith that people are like mines. You dig and inside and you discover very precious materials. But digging is required. It's not right there on the surface. So this potential is there, but it has to be developed. So human behavior is guided by this search for meaning. What am I? Who am I? Why am I here? What is the purpose of my life? How can I maximize my potential? These are the things which drive our action, not the lifetime maximization of consumption. Nobody really cares about that. Even those people who try it find that it doesn't help, except it makes them obese. So we cannot study social science without thinking about meaning of life. This is not a Islamic issue. This is just a scientific issue, that different people define their lives in a different way, and if we want to understand any human being, we have to find out what is the purpose of his life before we can understand what he is going to do in a given situation. We're going to understand how so this means that when you study social science, automatically the normative and the positive are mixed. They cannot be separated. If I want to study how XYZ is behaving, I have to understand what his norms are, what are the standards by which he lives. I don't need to necessarily impose my norms on him. This is it's just that. But if I want to understand his behavior, I have to understand his norms, and I cannot understand the norms of every single person separately. That's too difficult. So I have to understand what are the dominant norms in the world, and what are the norms of different groups of people. Different groups have different norms. So what the Muslims believe and how they act, this matters, and what Christians believe and how atheists and so on. All the groups, we have to understand what do they think the purpose of life is and how do they act. But this means that the positive and the normative are mixed up. You cannot separate them, because the behavior, the positive behavior, what you can see, is dependent on the norm which you cannot see. So the idea that these two can be separated is a fallacy and incorrect, contrary to what economics teaches. So for us, the most important thing personally is that Islam teaches us that every human being is infinitely valuable. At the same time, we can see that this is not true. So to understand both of these things, that some people are worth zero and some people are worth a lot, we have to understand that this is talking about the potential. Every human being has a potential to be extremely valuable, just like every seed has a potential to be a tree. So it is, if the potential is realized, then human beings can become infinitely precious. If they don't realize, then they're like any other seed. So the question is, what are the obstacles to our achieving the potential that is inside every human being? This is also a very important teaching of Islam, which is very different from conventional, that every human being, regardless of whether he's white or black, or whether he's rich or poor, every human being is infinitely precious. Everyone has this potential. So now the key element of an Islamic education is, how do we develop this potential? And this thing is never mentioned in West, because they have no concept of the potential inside you. Every human being is just a robot in the West, and so automatically he is just an eating machine, and that is what he will do. So we don't need to develop potentials, we don't need to talk about. So what are the obstacles for us to developing our potential? The first thing is to realize that there is something to be achieved, and to set our goals to achieve high goals. Allah Ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, "Laysa lil insani illa ma sa'a." For you, there is only what you strive for, what you work for. So if we strive to achieve money, then we will get money, but we will not get anything else. So if we are told and we start to believe the economic theory that the purpose of life is to maximize consumption, then this is what we will do. We will try to have big houses and big cars, and this is how we will waste our life. And so Iqbal has said that "Tu hi nada chand kaliyon par qanaat kar gaya." So you all, it was your fault that you set yourself a very low goal, warna there were great things in the treasure house of God. So the wrong goals for our life are deadly poisons, because we don't get a second chance. So, and there are so many people who, at the end of their life, they have regrets that this is I spent my life pursuing my career and riches, and I neglected my family, and now I realize that these were the people who would have supported me if I had been kind to them. So the fundamental question that we face is, how can we realize this potential? How can we grow? Now the body, it grows if it gets food, but what about our soul? What about our heart? What about our brains? All of these are like the same thing. If you exercise your brains, they will grow. If you give your soul spiritual nourishment, zikr and ibadat, then it will grow. And heart also, if you have good conduct, ikhlaq, compassion, mercy towards others, you engage with others, you help the poor, then your heart will grow. So, somebody complained about his having a hard heart, and I think the Prophet ﷺ advised him to sit with the poor people, and so then that will soften his heart. So if we fail to grow, then we will fail to realize our hidden potential, and it should be very clear that life is not about the acquisition of wealth, fame, power, luxury. And this is the lesson of Western education. These are the goals that you are taught to achieve, that if you get your degree, you can become wealthy, you can become rich, you can become powerful, you can become famous, you can become popular. These are the goals. And none of these are the correct and proper goals. So the Western education actually destroys your life, because it sets you to pursue wrong goals. So what is it that prevents us from setting high goals? Well, first thing is that the environment teaches us the wrong goals. So this is poison that is surrounding us. Everybody else is racing after riches, so we say that we join the race. We don't understand that this race is going to Jahannam. This is what the Prophet ﷺ said, that all of you are racing towards the hellfire, and I am pulling you by the neck and grabbing you by the neck and pulling you back. The theory that we study and teach, economics, it teaches us that we are cheap, and we believe this. We are for sale to the highest bidder, and this is our we proudly wear the chain of slavery on our feet. We say that we get a degree, and then the one who has the most highest paying job, this is the one who is successful. And if somebody can sell himself for $1,000, so that's wonderful. He is great. He is a precious man. Similarly, the physical theories that we teach, the physics, it teaches us materialism, that we are very small. Our mass is small. Force is equal to mass times acceleration. We are just small bits of matter. We don't matter. We can't change the world because we're too small. And if you think about the impact of physical matter, then this whole world is too big. How can my existence or non-existence can make no difference to this world. So I am unimportant. So these are some of the obstacles. I think the biggest obstacle that we face is an inferiority complex, that the West has done everything, we have done nothing, we are zero, and they are heroes. So this means that today we have no choice but to follow the West, and we are so far behind that we can't possibly, we can't think or imagine that we can be leaders of the world. And so the education system that we have adopted all over the Islamic world is a complete failure. The goal of modern education is to break the individual person, to grind out all of his individuality, and to create interchangeable parts for the wealth-making machine, that is capitalism, to produce bureaucrats who will follow orders without questions. And it systematically blinds students to realities and truth about human lives. And we have actually studied how the economists are systematically blind to behavior of human beings. And the economists are the only people who don't understand the ultimatum game, because economic theory makes them blind to understanding human behavior. This is just one example, and the whole of Western theory, whether it's physics or chemistry, it's all like this. It makes you systematically blind to the important things which are real and truth, and at the same time it makes you believe that this is the important thing. So it's deceptive. So the solution is to inspire and motivate students. So I have a couple of lectures on this. One lecture is for students, to inspire and motivate them. And the second one is for teachers on how to inspire and motivate students. And this involves overcoming the loss of confidence, learning to believe that we can change the world, learning to believe the message of Allah that says that every human being has the power to change the entire world. Because in the world of spirit, these laws of materials don't hold. The force is equal to mass times gravity acceleration does not hold. One human being can, and we have examples. The Prophet ﷺ changed the course of history. Today, billions of people are Muslims, regardless of what they are. This is because of what he did 1400 years ago. So one human being can have such huge effects. This is not according to the laws of physics. So there are several techniques, and there are so many things. Islam is a very deep religion. There's a hadith that Islam is very deep. Don't enter into it slowly, and you go step by step. If you try to go too far, too fast, you will drown. So some of the just two very important brief points, and I have explained these in detail in other lectures about knowledge and how the Islamic approach to knowledge, how Islamic approach for teachers and for students, it's all very, very, very different from Western approach. And to this day you have been conditioned in the Western approach. But you have been brought up in an Islamic environment. So your own training is a mixture of conflicting and contradicting ideas. You have in your heart and mind, you have both ideas. On the one hand, you have the idea that we should respect our teachers. On the other hand, you have the idea that the teacher is our servant. He has been hired and he has been paid, and he should provide the service. And if he doesn't perform, then we can. So both of these ideas are present in your heart and mind because you have been trained to believe, and you have received both sets of trainings. So one angle, which is how to overcome the loss of confidence due to the Eurocentric narrative that we have swallowed. So one is to counteract, to learn non-Eurocentric narratives. And these are available in many of my lectures. The second thing to understand is that in order to learn to achieve great goals, you have to focus on the process and not on the outcome. If you say that I'm going to change the world, then you can say that, oh, thousands of people have tried and thousands of people have failed, so I will also fail. So then you stop. So the thing is that we have to focus on being among the people who fought for the truth. So this is what Islam teaches us, that as long as you're engaged in the struggle, the jihad, it doesn't matter whether you win or lose. If you lose, you are shaheed. If you win, you are ghazi. It doesn't matter. Both outcomes. So it's only the process that matters. So as long as you are fighting for haqq, then it doesn't matter whether you win or lose. So this is very important. That allows us to, because that's something we can do. I can fight. I cannot guarantee victory, but I can certainly fight. And victory, Allah Ta'ala says, is in His hands. It's not guaranteed to anyone. Even the Prophet ﷺ, who was the greatest of the da'is, and his goal of his life was to convert people to Islam and invite people, he was told by Allah Ta'ala, you cannot convert anybody according to your will. I will give the guidance. Your job is only to spread the word, to tell them. The rest is in my hands. So this is exactly the focus on process, not on outcomes. And so now self-confidence itself, it's also a paradoxical concept in Islam, because in Islam we can't have self-confidence in the Western sense that, oh, I am a great person and I can do a lot of things. This is what self-confidence means. Actually, in Islam, self-confidence is infinite humility. I am complete zero. I can do nothing. But my God is great. He is all-powerful. He can do anything. So I make dua and I trust in Allah to give me the needed skills for the moment. I ask Allah to use me and to develop my skills. And this is what Iqbal has expressed very accurately in one of his shares, that मैं हूँ सदफ तो तेरे हाथ मेरे गुहर की आबरू, मैं हूँ खजफ तो तू मेरे मुझे गौहर ताबदार. So if I am a pearl, then my shine and my glory and my brilliance is in your hands. Even if I have the greatest capabilities, I cannot achieve anything except with your help. And if I am a little piece of stone which is completely worthless, you can turn me into a most precious pearl. So in either case, our confidence is in Allah, not in ourselves. And that leads to the... so Islamic self-confidence is very different from Western self-confidence. So, what is the purpose of our lives? This is the most important question. So, it's very clearly stated that Allah Ta'ala created life and death as a trial, as a test to see who will do the best of deeds. So, how can we do the best of deeds? For that, the model is the life of our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who is the excellence in conduct. But to achieve this, to work this, we have to think and act and different ways, and to learn different things from what are taught in Western education. You cannot learn how to achieve excellence in behavior by studying chemistry. Now, the essay that I want to discuss is called Origins of Western Social Sciences, and which explains why Western social science is complete poison, and why we cannot adopt it, and why we cannot mix Islamic teachings with Western social. So basically, the reason for the failure of the project of Islamization of knowledge, and this is still going on all over the world in Islamic university and in many other places, is that the idea of Islamization of knowledge is that we take Western knowledge and we take Islamic knowledge and we combine them. So this is like trying to combine fire and water. It doesn't work. These two are opposites. So Western social sciences, we have to reject it. Unfortunately, Muslims have not had the self-confidence to reject Western social sciences because they have such a deep inferiority complex. They think that since the West has achieved such great things as putting rocket ships on the moon, then they must be also correct in social science. This is like thinking that, my Professor Joseph Stiglitz achieved a Nobel Prize in economics, so he must also be a good husband to his wife. Actually, he got a divorce. His wife ran away with somebody else, if I remember correctly. Another economist, if I don't remember. So, there is the trauma in the West. So we are going to analyze how social science developed in the West to understand why it is wrong. So basically, we have discussed many times how there was a conflict between religion and science in the West, and science won that battle, and religion lost that battle. And in the process, the Catholic Church was split up, and there were bloody battles. And so people started to disbelieve in religion. And so, but when you lose faith, that leads to trauma. Trauma is shock and sense, a catastrophe has happened. Bertrand Russell has expressed it very eloquently, poetically. He says that everything, we hope, our fears, our courage, our heroism, it's all just an accident. Atoms hitting each other at random and creating these effects. Just like you look through a kaleidoscope and you see beautiful patterns in the glass reflected in the mirrors, but it has no meaning. It's just random collections. So everything that we do will just finish when the universe dies, and everything will be buried in the universe of ruins. And so These are fundamental truths. And if we want to build our life, we have to take these bitter truths for granted. So he says, he realizes this is very bitter. Why? Because, we think that somebody is watching us. If I do good, even if it is not, and if I do good in secret, Allah Ta'ala is watching and He will reward me. Otherwise, if I think that no matter how much good I do, nobody cares, nobody is watching, nobody appreciates it, then it was very disheartening. And if somebody, he does massive evil, he kills everybody, nobody cares and nobody watches, and he will never get punishment for this. This is also a very, very, very sad thought, tragedy. So this is the unyielding despair. This puts you into despair, that how can I live in this kind of a tragic situation? So this is the trauma of loss of faith. So this simple thing, I think, therefore I am, yani, do I even exist? This is the question. This is not a question which a normal human beings will ask. It is somebody who's been traumatized. Now, logic is the only thing. You see, when you lost your faith in religion, then you lost everything. Because everything I intuitively believe is false. So now I have to start from zero. I have to use my logic. The only thing I can trust is something I can touch and see and think. I will not trust any the emotion in my heart. This can be misleading. Everybody believed in God. Everybody was wrong. So I cannot trust my feelings. So my feeling is that I exist, but I cannot trust my feelings. So I must find a logical argument for my existence. So this is an indication of the trauma of loss of faith. Nietzsche has put it again very eloquently and beautifully. It's called his philosophy of death of God. So this is actually direct quotes. He is talking about the Western culture, that the madman jumped and he said, we have killed God. And everybody was very astonished. And he says that people don't understand this. So basically, killed God means that they have killed their faith in God. But they are unaware of what they have done, and they are unaware of the gravity of this crime. Now they have to put the whole world back together. They have to reinvent morality and reinvent everything from scratch. And this is actually the topic of our lecture, so I'll explain this more. So here I just want to explain that this was a deeply traumatic event in Europe, which led them to deny things which are very obvious. If you start asking questions like, do I exist or do I not exist, that means that you cannot get to the real questions that we face. So, the first thing I want to discuss is, why did Europeans lose their faith? We have discussed this also. But there is a standard Eurocentric explanation for this, which we have to understand, because this is what they say and this is what we have been taught to believe. So according to the standard Eurocentric explanation, the light of reason, the sun of reason, first rose in the West in the 16th, 17th century. And so Europeans learned to reason and think for the first time in history. And nobody else in mankind ever learned how to reason. The people were just caught in traditions. They thought they did what their ancestors told them. They never thought for themselves. Thinking for themselves was a European invention. And once this sun of reason arose, they realized that religion is just superstition. And this religion is holding mankind backwards and in ignorance. And this is the standard message of Western education built into. Today we see so many atheists among the students, so many people who are doubting their faith. Because even though it's not written openly in the textbooks, this is the subtext everywhere. In all the Western education that you study, it says that religion is nothing but superstition, and here we have the right knowledge. And science is the way to the future, and look at what science has done for us. It has changed mankind. It has given us rocket ships and atom bombs and led to 40 million deaths in World War II and the bombing of, the killing of all the Iraqi nation and so on. So it's a great thing that we have invented. So this is the Eurocentric explanation of of why Europeans don't believe in gods, because they are intelligent, they are rational, they don't believe in superstition. This is the reason why they have rejected God. So the real explanation is very different. So the first thing is that the Catholic Christianity that they all believed in is not a good religion. They idealized asceticism, rahbaniyat. They said that, the best man is the one who doesn't have a wife. The greatest ideal is not to have any possessions, so you should be poor. So Islam says that we did not ordain rahbaniyat. This is something they did for themselves. So this was not the commandment of Allah Ta'ala, but they took these things as ideals. So if a man wants to achieve, there is a German novel, I forgot the name, but if a man wants to achieve great heights of spirituality, how does he do it? Well, he chained himself to a wall in the cave and he tortured himself, and for years he stayed in this condition. Now this is ridiculous. This is something which Islam does not teach, but they thought that this is what religion is teaching, that this is how you achieve spiritual progress. So obviously they rejected religion. They were quite right to do so. So these things are, this was their religion, so they rejected it. So they thought that religion is hypocrisy. Yani it teaches you to believe in things which you cannot do. So you say something and you do something else. And in fact, they saw this. This was the terrible thing that happened in the 16th century. There was massive corruption. The Catholic popes, one after the other, there's a chapter in the book about how the popes' behavior led to the Protestant revolt. They were having wild parties, they were having mistresses, they were doing all sorts of sinful things, and not only in secret, they were doing it open because they had power. Nobody could check them. And when they were building luxury buildings, just celebrating splendor and luxury. And when they ran out of money, they would finance it by selling people pardon for their sins. So you can come and do something wrong, and then you can buy the pardon for it. And when they ran short, then they started selling pardons for sins in the future. You come in and you buy a permission to murder. Then later you can go on and commit that murder. So obviously this led to the Protestant revolt, which led to bloody fighting among different factions, and eventually it led to the people becoming disgusted with the religion. So this was actually a high-level betrayal. The people who were the leaders of the faith did the worst things, and so people said that this religion, it can't be right. And they were so what were the consequences of this loss of faith in Europe? Well, basically there are some fundamental questions which religion answers, which no longer have answers. So they have to be answered again from scratch by thinking. So these are questions which actually cannot be answered by reason. They require wahi to answer correctly. But they had no choice. They had no reliable access to the teachings of God. So the first question is, how was this universe created? How were human beings? We are so complex. It seems obvious intuitively. Again, West teaches us not to trust intuition, that human beings are the center of creation on this planet at least. It's not that we are not like monkeys, and we are not like dogs, and we are not like horses. We are intelligent, self-aware, conscious. So everything else is subservient to us. All of the universe, and this is what the Quran says, the universe was created for us, and we were created for God. So how we are created, this is a question again, because and then why we were created, what is the purpose of our creation, this is another question. Again, now there is if you reject, all of the religions have an answer to this question. But if you reject religion, then you have no answer. So then, how should we behave towards each other? Should I just do like I smile at you, and while you're not looking, I put my knife in your back, as some people says? So, what's wrong with that? If I can gain an advantage, there are some theories that this is indeed what you should do. So, how should I behave towards other? What is the social norm? How should we organize our? What is the source of morality? Is there something good and bad? How should we organize society? What are social? Should there be families? Should there not be families? Today they are working. Today in America, because marriages have become temporary. Every marriage is temporary by default. So now they are advocating a new way of life. They are saying, people change over time. Two people cannot live together for the whole life because they keep changing. So we should have this 5-year marriage, and after 5 years people grow up, and then they should go and find different partner for different phases of their life. This is now the going theory. So when you are confined to using logic, then you can think anything. You can have random meetings, and all children should be, there is no marriage. Anybody can have sex with anybody else, and the children that are born are responsibility of the state. This was another theory that actually was proposed and practiced in some places. So logic doesn't give us any guidance as to whether or not there should be a family, whether there should be community, whether what kind of politics we should do, what kind of economics we should have. Finally, what is the nature of knowledge? What do we know? What do we not know? Again, rejection of religion led to a very, very, very severe problem, in that it became clear to the West that even if everybody agrees to something like religion, everybody's heart says that this is the truth, it can all be wrong. So now, don't trust your heart, don't trust your feelings, don't trust anything to be knowledge. So what is knowledge? Knowledge has to be perfect, it has to be provable, it has to be true, it has to be certain. This is the standards they set for knowledge. And so now chemistry can be knowledge because we know how to do with it, but a mystical experience, this is not knowledge because it's personal, individual, not guaranteed. You can try and you can fail. So basically, social science in the West is the name of efforts to answer these fundamental questions that we have about life, using only observations and logic and not using any access to wahi. And it has been a complete failure. This effort has not resulted in any success. It has resulted in tremendous amount of damage. Today, the world has been poisoned, the atmosphere, the air is polluted, the oceans are acidic because of human garbage. More species are dying than have ever before in the past million years because human beings don't care about other life on the planet. What about other life? Human beings don't care about human life on the planet because the logic doesn't tell us to care about other people. It is only the soul which can feel the pain of others. The heart can feel the pain of others. Mind cannot feel the pain of others. So with your mind you can be extremely cruel if you don't have access to your feelings of your heart. And this is what has happened. The 20th century has been the bloodiest century in the history of mankind. So we come to these questions one by one and we will discuss them. So how was the universe created? The answer that was given by the atheists, the secular modernists, is that the universe was not created. It has existed forever. That was the scientific answer. And when people asked that who created the universe, they asked who created God. So there is a debate that was carried on over the centuries. The people of religion said that the universe was created by God and God is uncreated, and this is the people of secular mind said that the universe was uncreated. So now, and it was not expected by either party that there would be any resolution to this debate. Both of them would just, we can just discuss, but we won't have, इसका कोई वो ज़रा उसको बुलाओ, इसको plug in करनी, इसका plug in तो है. You have to check why this plug is not working. वरना ये die कर जाएगा. So, it was not expected by either party. It was not expected by either party, neither the religionist nor the atheist, that there would be any answer. They would just, this is a talk. We say our thing, that universe was uncreated. You say your thing. Neither party expected to find, ठीक है वो हो गया, वो somehow वो power off हो गया था. Expected to find any evidence. This was just talk. But actually, very surprisingly, very unexpectedly, in the 20th century, amazing evidence emerged on this issue, which is called the Big Bang. And I have written a long article on this, explaining why this is. But basically, the universe was created at one point in time, and this was discovered empirically. It was not that universe is uncreated and it has always existed in this state forever. No, there was a point of time before which nothing existed, not even time existed. And then suddenly, from just one speck, there was a massive explosion, and this speck became the whole universe. This was the Big Bang. So now, immediate question arises, who created the universe? Now, there is a big debate going on. Scientists say that, no, when you ask who created, you're already biased. You're saying that obviously it was God. No, we should ask, how was the universe created? So, okay, I step back. I say, okay, just explain to me how the universe was created. So, they have no explanation. Now, we have an explanation that God created it. So bring me an alternative explanation, how it was created. So far they don't have any. So currently, contrary to what was the case before, currently in all areas the argument in favor of existence of God is much, much stronger than it was 1 century ago or 2 centuries ago. And currently there are many, many cases where there is no other explanation currently available, like how the universe was created. You see, the scientists said that religion was invented, this is a common Western Eurocentric theory, because people didn't understand natural phenomena. Why does it rain? Well, they said, well, God causes it to rain. But now we have an explanation. We can say that this is steam goes up from the oceans and it's forms into clouds and it precipitates, etc., etc., etc. So now we don't need God. So for a while this could have been true, but the fact is that their own discoveries in many different fields, many different, I've only indicated a small collection, show that the best explanation currently available for a large number of different phenomena is that God did it. There is no, they say that, so what does the scientists respond? They say, we will find an explanation, don't worry. That's all. We are working on it and we will find. There is a book which has been written along these lines called the God particle. So apparently there is this particle which is subatomic, very, very small, and it can, according to current physical theory, blink in and out of existence. So somehow from non-existence it can come into existence. So if you think of this as A and then say, okay, this is the starting point, and now just like this particle, so the whole universe, one day we will find an explanation. Okay, so when you find it, then you come back to me. For the moment, the best explanation is that God created the universe. This is absolutely okay. So now, the second thing is that evolution. You see, at the time the theory was how was man created? Well, it was by the process of evolution. Actually, some evolutionists said that before we had the theory of evolution, it was not sensible, it was not logical for someone to be an atheist, because there is this huge puzzle: how was man created? We have no explanation for it except that God did it. Then you have to have faith that we will find some explanation. So today, actually, the atheists have faith in the possibility of their finding explanation, and the facts are on the side of the people who believe in God. I mean, the facts show that there must be a God. Now, if you want to deny it, then you have to have faith that someday we will find an explanation of how the universe was created, how man was created. So, when evolution was discovered, they had an explanation that, okay, this is how man was created. Monkeys evolved into animals. Now, at that time, when the theory was proposed, there was no, the genetic code was not known. Darwin did not know about genes and DNA and double helix. Now, when you post this genetic code, it is clear that evolution cannot take you from any point to any other point. Any evolution that happens is already present in the gene chain. I mean, you can make changes, but the basic material is still there. So anything that occurs, regardless of, even if monkeys evolve into human beings, the code for the human being is already present in the DNA of the monkey. Otherwise, you can't get from there to here. So it means that evolution is not a random process, it is goal directed. So even if evolution created man, this evolution was pre-planned from day one. Again, this points towards God. I mean, if not, who else planned it? There is this theory of irreducible complexity, which has been created by Christians who are also trying to argue. This is called the argument by intelligent design. It says that the universe shows all signs of being intelligently designed. So if there is an intelligent design, then there must be a designer. So one of the things, one of the parts of this argument is that many pieces of this world are irreducibly complex. What is irreducible? It means that there is a structure such that if you take one piece out of it, the structure stops functioning. This is what irreducible complexity is. So all of the pieces have to be together. Think of it as a car. If you take out the steering wheel, it won't work. If you take out the wheels, if you take out the engine, if you take out spark plugs, any one part you take out and the car will stop working. So now, in order to get to such a structure, you can't do it in a step-by-step way, which is what evolution asks for. So if you can't do it by step, then the only way to do it is to put it all together at once, and it is too complex to happen by accident, so it must be designed. This is also called the watchmaker argument, that if you see a fine, you're walking on the road and you see a designed watch which is doing something useful and it is extremely complex, then you won't say, then you will say that somebody created this. It's just natural logic. I mean, it didn't just assemble itself at random. Otherwise, how could it be so complicated? How could it be useful? So this argument again argues for the existence of God, and there is no counter explanation of this available to the scientist. Again, they say that we will find an answer, don't worry. There is this argument which even very well-known atheists have said, that the universe seems as if it has been designed. And an atheist is saying this, that because some of the constants, physics has Planck's constant and this constant and that constant, they are extremely delicately designed so that even one difference in one in trillion parts would make it non-functional. Yani it's so finely tuned that it's hard to believe that it just happened by chance. So, for example, the Big Bang, now it had to occur at you see, there is a rate of attraction of matter to each other. This has to be correct to the, the trillionth decimal place. If this force is too strong, then what will happen is that everything will, and if the force of attraction, everything will clump together into one solid piece, and there will be no planets, no sun. If it is too weak, then there will be only small specks, and they will fly out. There will be no clumping together. It has to be very, very precisely balanced that on the initial explosion throws things apart, but there is enough attraction to cause the formation of galaxies and planets and suns and so on. And one difference of one decimal in a trillionth decimal place will cause this to fail. So how did this force of attraction become exactly the right value that was needed? The universe has been fine-tuned to a degree that only God could do it. Nobody else can. There is no alternative explanation. Then there is this, so these are just some of the arguments. There is this encoding in language, the way that the human beings work. This is infinitely complex. Our genes are coded. They speak a language to other parts of the machinery, which tells them that, okay, this is what you have to do, this is what you have to do. It's an artificial language in the sense that we have 4 types of molecules: adenine, ATP, thymine, cytosine, and P, phosphate, ATPC. So according to the sequencing, the RNA, etc. assemble. So there is a language that is being used. If language is spoken, then there has to be someone who invented the language. It's not some natural process. It's an artificial language that was created. So all evidence points in one direction. Alright, so that was just the first question. The second question is, what is the purpose of life? Now, according to the standard secular modern idea, life is meaningless. This leads to what is called alienation by Marx, that the worker finds his life meaningless, and sociologist Durkheim called it anomie, that what am I doing here? Why should I be living? So the suicide becomes the only serious question, that if my life has no meaning, then why should I live? These are all major issues in Western philosophy. There's a whole book about how suicide is the only meaningful act. So currently the purpose of life as defined by economics is that purpose of life is earning of wealth. Value of life is measured by your earnings. If you don't earn, then your life is worthless. These are actually official economic theories. And so when you start believing these things, then you have this idea, like Madeleine Albright said. Somebody asked her on a TV show interview, which is recorded and available on YouTube, that, well, what do you think? Your policies have led to the death of 500,000 Iraqi children. She said, oh, that's fine, no problem. It's worthwhile. So, killing 500,000 children is okay. These children have no value. Now, Islam says that one death is enough. And even one death is not cheap. So the commodification of human lives has taken place. You have been taught theories that of marginal product of labor, lives are cheap, they are for sale. If somebody doesn't have any marginal product, then his life is worth zero, his marginal product is zero. So the major goals are hedonism, that the purpose of life is to enjoy, power, to exercise, These are the purposes which are built into the concept of a Western education. And these are superficially very attractive. That is why this world has been a battle place. The heart of a human being has been filled with the attraction for sin. This is what creates the test. This is very important to understand, that if our heart did not contain attraction towards bad things and evil desires, then there would be no test. We would be like angels. But the human being has been given these desires, so this is what creates the test, and to see if we can overcome this. So the universe was created for man. This is the opposition to Islam, and we are the best of creations in potential. Remember, Allah Ta'ala says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ. Also, we are the worst of the creation in potential. So, how can we become the best? This is the basic one. And how can we avoid becoming the worst? And so, this is done by struggling for justice, by trying to serve human beings, all of the creation of mankind. Service to God is the highest form of worship, and the Sharia teaches us how to behave. So these are a complete contrast. So our basis for social science must be radically different from any social science that West could possibly make on different foundations. So what are the standards of conduct and morality? So Islam is Deenul Fitrah, which is why I can say this to every human being. I don't say that first you convert to Islam and then I will tell you how to behave. No, because every child is built with this fitrah. So the qualities of Islam appeal to all humankind. It's not that this is a specialized message. Once you start reading the Quran and the Hadith, then you will understand the teaching. No. The message is built into our hearts. This is why Allah Ta'ala says that this is just a reminder. Inna hazihi tazkirah. The Quran is a reminder, because these things are already present inside your heart. The good qualities, you know what is good and you know what is evil, and this is built into your heart. According to the West, this is not true, because they deny the nature of man. They have this, and human beings have no heart and soul, and they have no nature. So every man is born as tabula rasa, blank slate. So you impose nature upon him, you teach him. So Islam also says that, yes, people are born with this nature, but training can take you away from this nature. So it is true, but it is not that there is no nature. There is some nature, just like the seed has a nature, but you can make a bonsai tree by forcing it along certain directions. So this doesn't mean that there is no nature. There is a nature, it is working in certain ways, but training also has an effect. Both of these things work. So by denying heart and soul and nature, then the West says that human beings are just robots, because there is nothing inside. So stimulus response theory, there is no free will. Human beings, no good and evil. In fact, the book by behavioral psychologist Skinner is entitled Beyond Good and Evil. That good and evil are obsolete concepts. They don't matter, because it's all stimulus response. However you are conditioned, that's how you will behave. So there is no morality. Morality is created by consensus. If you agree on something, it becomes moral. Now, agreement is only for a group. So what are the groups? Well, the groups are the nations. That is... So Hegel and his followers said that nations create morality, and therefore they are above morality. This is what led to extremely cruel behavior. You kill all the Germans, you burn their children and women. There is no morality. The state does not, morality does not operate at the state level. So you can go and bomb a nation, carpet bomb it, kill all the people. No morality. So these are the ideas of social science of the West. The pleasure-pain principle we have already discussed. This is a sort of a ridiculous basis for morality. Just more eating is moral, and this is ridiculous. And that's Morality is much deeper than that, and it doesn't actually even lead to what you are seeking. You want to be happy, you're not going to become happy by eating cakes. So even for your own limited purposes, it is not a valid theory. And this is what economic theory, all of economic theory is based on this ridiculous idea. So how do we organize society, social, political, economic organization? Well, there are no rules, no external principles that we should follow. Everybody is a mini god. I make my rules, you make your rules. But then we have to have the social contract, that how do we act when two gods are in collision. This is basically, the religion is the worship of the nafs. Economics is the theory of how we can best worship the nafs, and how in a society of nafs worshippers there will be scarcity, because everybody will want to grab everything for themselves. So that's what scarcity is. And so how do we mediate between demands? And the economic theory says that let people have according to their power. Whoever can grab the most, he is entitled to that. This is what economic theory teaches. Freedom is the principle in all three spheres, because if everybody is God, then he should be free to act according to you. I should not impose any principles upon you, because you are free to choose your own principles. And I should not allow anyone to impose principles upon me. I am free of all social restraints. I have no responsibility to anybody else, no responsibility to family, no responsibility to my wife and my children. I am only responsible to worship my nafs, however it pleases me. If I want to kill my children, that's fine also, as long as nobody else catches me. This is true. And I was actually studying in an American school. Our coach said that, look, I'm going to tell you a big secret of life. And what was that secret? He was telling this to teenagers, impressionable, that you can do whatever you like. There is no constraint if you don't get caught. That's all. If you, actually he didn't say you don't get caught, he said as long as you can face the consequences. If you rob a bank, as long as you don't get caught, that's fine, wonderful, great. So that's freedom. Political freedom, economic freedom is laissez-faire. Now, superficially, this is a very poisonous philosophy, because it's superficially very attractive. And everybody says, yes, wonderful, I want to be free. But actually, it turns out to be the dictatorship of the wealthy. As there is a song, freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. So that's how it goes actually. The poor people, they don't have any freedom, because they have to sell their lives to the capitalists in order to make money to survive. The only one who is free are the rich. So this freedom philosophy has not brought us any good results. So what is the nature of knowledge? I've already explained that the religious trauma of the West led them to search for certainties. So actually the axiomatic deductive method of the Greeks is the only thing which leads to certainty. It's like Euclidean proof. You have axioms. The axioms are certain by assumption. Then you use logic, so then you get to fail safe. So this is the thing they are attracted to. And economic theory today is also built on axiomatic. Now the thing is that the great discovery of Ibn al-Haytham, the scientific method, was that this method doesn't work. Instead of making assumptions which are true and then using logic, you have to look at the world without preconceptions and see what is happening, and then try to understand it and formulate some principle about why this might be happening, and then test if it works, and if it doesn't work, then you change it. So our thoughts are secondary to experience. Now in the axiomatic deductive method, the thoughts are primary. So today also, the economist theories are primary. The world is secondary. The theories come by just reading books, not with any exposure to reality. So I have given this discussion in detail in a number of papers, how the methodology of economics is completely wrong, and why it hasn't been fixed, and why they keep making mistakes, because of the search for certainty. if they say, okay, we will accept the idea that knowledge may be wrong, knowledge is uncertain, then you can live in this world. But basically, what happened, very interesting thing happened, which is that positivism led to what one of their leading positivists eventually said, that it led us to feign anesthesia, that is to pretend that we have no feelings. Why? Well, you see, feelings are unobservable. This is the primary feeling. Your feeling is completely unobservable. You can say that I'm feeling sad, but I can never look inside your heart to see if you're sad or you're happy. You might be fooling me. You might be deceiving me. Students often come in and cry and say that I will commit suicide unless you pass me in this course. But I have to guess whether they are joking or whether they are serious. So your feelings are, so now I can see my own feelings, I know I have them. So now I am faced with a dilemma as a positivist. You see, when you deny, what happened in the West was that they denied the existence of God, and subsequently they denied the existence of everything unobservable, because that had to be thrown in. So they are still caught in this bind, and you cannot develop science today. This is very strong. The idea, quantification, measurable goals, numerical quantification of performance, all of this thing is just based on the fact that you have to quantify. If you don't quantify, then you don't have knowledge. This is ridiculous, dealing a lot of damage everywhere. So now the thing is that feelings, yes, I can sense my feelings, but if I say that I have feelings, then I am forced to say that you also have feelings. Then I am forced to acknowledge the existence of unobservables. But once I open that door, then maybe even God will exist. So you want to close that door. So I say, I have no feelings and you have no feelings. And so we are all men of stone. So Quran starts with Allazina yu'minuna bil ghaib. The first condition for the believers is to believe in the unseen. And the Western science starts with the Allazina yunkiruna bil ghaib. You have to deny the existence of the unobserver in order to make progress in Western social science. So the Islamization of knowledge is a project that is doomed to failure, because we are assuming that what the West has is knowledge, and somehow we can fix it up to become Islamic. And this project has been tried and has failed all over the Islamic world. It is a very important project. We want to construct a good system of education, but we can't do it in the way that it is being attempted. So the first thing we need to do in order to do it correctly is to differentiate between physical science and social science. Now, this is a deception of the West, that social science is the same as physical science. They claim this, and we believe this. But actually, physical science and social science are completely different things. One is the study of inanimate objects. For that, you can have mathematical laws. If I say that the planets follow a mathematical law, there is no question. In fact, the Quran says that that some objects follow the laws that Allah Ta'ala prescribes. But human beings were given the choice. They were offered this amana of freedom of choice, and human beings accepted. Everybody else rejected it. So nothing else has freedom of choice, but human beings do. So now we have we can all understand easily that there is a mathematical formula which will describe the behavior of the earth. But what about, is there a mathematical formula which will describe the behavior of Nisa? We know that this is not true, even though she is a mathematician. There is no mathematical formula. We understand this. I mean, we don't need to do a lot of logic. We understand that we know our own behavior is too complex to be described by a mathematical formula. So how can we write down differential equations which describe the behavior of societies and economies? This is ridiculous to begin with. So this same method which works on inanimate, it cannot be expected to work on human beings. Human beings are free, they change, they have diverse motives, they have conflicting, yani the same person, he can be generous at one point and selfish in others. We know this because we have experienced this. It's not something that is to be told to us. So why did Muslims fail to recognize this? Yani why did you guys, when you were taught economics, you were told that the consumer goes in and he has this multivariate utility function, and then he calculates all the first derivatives and sets them equal to zero, and he substitutes the budget constraints, and then he finds out how much tomatoes to purchase. Why didn't you laugh? You're laughing now. Why didn't you laugh when your microeconomics teacher taught you this absurd theory? Well, because you have an inferiority complex. You are overly impressed with the West. You say that whatever the West says, amanna sadaqna. I deny the evidence of my eyes. I deny my own lifetime experience. Yes, I make sajda to the Western knowledge. So this is the deliberately created complex. It is not just that we are impressed. Actually, the West has, any part of the power of the West lies in making us believe that they are superior. So when the British conquered India, they did a lot of psychological tactics to break our spirit, and these are continuing today also. So the chaprasi of the Western officials was given the uniform of Tipu Sultan, that our kings are the servants of your clerks. And obviously this is a very heartbreaking thing if you see the dress of your king. Today, if we made our waitresses in intercontinental dress in the Queen Victoria's dress, there would be a protest from the British embassy that you are doing dishonor and insult to our. So this and many other things were done. The ulama were seated at the bottom of the ranks to show that our men of knowledge are their stupidest people, and so this did break our spirit, and so we are a broken people. So this deliberately, this was reinforced by Eurocentric teaching, which tell us that every good thing was invented in Europe. You guys have been rotten and good for nothing all of your history, and I see many people repeating this all over the internet, that Muslims never did anything in all 1400 years of their existence. So we have swallowed all of these Eurocentric poisons. So social science is just a Western superstition about human beings. Expertise in physics does not lead to expertise in psychology. The behavioral psychology in the West and the economic theory makes radically naive assumptions about human behavior. Even their most sophisticated thinkers don't have an understanding of human beings that is as complex as is found in the Quran today. So we can't really, the whole history of social science and its details are very, very complicated. We can't go into it. So, but it's easy to judge by outcomes. Have they achieved happiness in the West? Have they become well off? No. My best friend in MIT, a fellow student, Paul Kinney, he committed suicide. His mother was divorced and refused to take care of him when he was desperate, because she was living a happy single life at that time and she didn't want to be interfered. She said to him that, look, I've taken care of you, brought you up, now I don't have any more responsibility towards you. So the outcome of social science has been disaster in the West. More than 50% of the children are from broken families, and they have not created world peace. Every day they go and bomb some whole nation, carpet bomb some. Libya was one of the most advanced nations in the world with free education for everybody, free healthcare. They carpet bombed it, they reduced it to stone ages. Iraq was one of the most advanced, they carpet bombed it. So this is like barbarism. This is the law of jungle. They have not achieved civilization. This is what their social science teaches them, that this life is a jungle. Everyone can do whatever they want. If you have the power to kill, then that already gives you the right to kill. And you see this every day when somebody picks up a gun in the USA shoots the children in the school. So, when we look at the outcomes, we see that the world is in a very terrible situation today. So, social science has not helped humanity. Today, we have robbed our children of their future. It's absolutely true. And regardless of what we do to mitigate climate change, our children can never have as good a life as we did in terms of having climate and environmental and natural resources. So this theft from anybody you can steal from, this is sanctioned by Western economic theory. So the economics, mathematics, etc., these are all designed to impress and deceive. They don't really have the capabilities that they promise, that they pretend to have. It's just meant to impress and deceive and to prevent us from thinking from ourselves. So, can we learn about economics by doing mathematics or by studying the real world? All of your education has been in mathematics. You have never studied what happens in the real world. So, is it possible? And you just think, is it possible for somebody to study mathematical formula and learn about the trade between Pakistan and India and learn about what commodities we should export to Iran and learn about foreign exchange? It's just impossible. This requires, knowing about what is happening in the real world. So today, our students who interned at the State Bank, they said, well, everything we learned in theory, there was no counterpart at the State Bank, and vice versa. The two things are completely different. The reality and the real world has nothing to do with economic theory, and vice versa. So, this gives us a golden opportunity. The West is completely in the dark, and they have no idea and they have no possibility of fixing these problems because they are buried so deep in their tradition. So, for the Muslims, we can be the leaders of the world and we can explain what human beings are really like. And the message of what human beings are appeals directly to the hearts of the people. It doesn't have to do with first we have to... Actually, at one point I was under the mistaken impression that first we must convert people to Islam, then we can tell them about these things. But it is not true, as I later realized. The central teachings of Islam about justice, about helping the poor, about generosity, these appeal directly to the hearts of every human being without any... So, today Muslims are in... So we can create... We have already a deeper understanding of human beings than the best psychologists in the West, given in the Quran and the Hadith and in our experience. So today Muslims are in shock and awe of the West. We don't want to think for ourselves. We don't trust that our thoughts can be of any validity when compared to something which has been said. People say, when I say this, that people say, oh, they have spent 100 years in developing, not 100, 300 years in developing economics, so it will take us another 300 years to catch up with them. So this is if we think that they are ahead of us and we try to follow them. But if we just turn our backs, then they will be 300 years behind us at position 0. So today the only problem is that we have done sajda to the statue of Western expertise. We don't even lift our eyes. In fact, the statue, the emperor is naked. Economic theory, Western, is all nonsense, complete garbage, nothing to it. The Quran and Hadith today offer us far deeper wisdom about how to manage our economic affairs than a PhD from Harvard University would do. But Muslims don't believe this. If you say this to somebody outside of this class, they will laugh at you. They will say that you are wrong. This is not true. You are just ignorant Muslim. I just have this. So, this is the problem today, that we have been given the greatest treasure of God. Allah Ta'ala says that I have given you the complete and perfect guidance. And this is the greatest of my blessings. But today we don't believe that the guidance is complete and perfect. Today we are willing to swap our Quran and Hadith for Western knowledge. We think that that is inferior and what they have is superior. Even though Allah Ta'ala in the Quran explicitly says that look, what you have been given is far superior to anything that they can gather. But we don't believe this anymore. That is the great tragedy of Islamization of knowledge today. So I will conclude this lecture